What we're trying to do is to see if this is coincidence, as we suspect, or whether there's a cause and effect. And that's why we're working very closely with these other countries. But we haven't seen anything that would tell us to put a hold on the program at this moment.
Tonight, breaking news, Phase 1B of Australia's vaccine rollout set to begin in just hours despite growing concerns over the AstraZeneca jab, but the government is standing by its biggest supplier. It's Sunday the 21st of March, you're watching 6 News also tonight.
This is one of those issues that we need to face and we need to have the conversation about consent. We need our kids to have a better understanding, we need our juries to have a better understanding in relation to that.
New South Wales top cop mocked after proposing a consent app that he says could be used to record mutual consent before engaging in sex, but even he's now admitting it could be a terrible idea. And later, take a look at this.
Not at the moment.
That clip of Joe Biden going viral over claims that the microphones you see in that video have been green screened in. We'll be fact-checking those claims and explaining what's really going on. A very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us this Sunday. Let's begin with breaking news though tonight, and GP clinics are set to join Australia's vaccine rollout tomorrow as the program enters Phase 1B in just a few hours, despite growing concerns over AstraZeneca's jab. From tomorrow, those over 70 as well as people with a medical condition will also become eligible. The government backing its biggest supplier, even with cases of allergic reactions and blood clotting being reported here and around the world. Let's go live now to Chief Reporter Connor, our 4K for the very latest. Connor, can we be assured that this jab is safe?
Leo, it's the question that has divided everyone from doctors to governments, but most crucially the public, with confidence in the vaccine no doubt undermined by a spate of recent medical complications involving people who've had the Oxford AstraZeneca jab. In an attempt to bolster public confidence on Saturday, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson was given his first dose of that AstraZeneca vaccine. He's one of many European leaders who's rolled up their sleeve to reassure the population.
Don't just listen to me, listen to all the scientists, listen to what the European Medicines Agency had to say yesterday, to what the MHRA has said. The risk is COVID. This is a great thing to do.
It comes as around a dozen European countries, including France, Germany and Italy, resume AstraZeneca vaccinations after suspending their rollouts over rare instances of blood clots. Out of the 45 million AstraZeneca doses so far administered, the company says that just 37 cases of blood clots have been reported. Europe's medicine regulator declared the vaccine safe and effective, finding no evidence that it increases the overall risk of blood clots. However, the regulator said the vaccine may be associated with 2 extremely rare blood clot issues, but they said the benefits outweigh the risks, giving governments the all-clear to resume inoculations. With 50 million doses of the jab on order here in Australia, it's the nation's biggest supplier, so these recent developments could have huge implications for the prospect of herd immunity. While there have been no reports of blood clotting in Australia, 4 people in Queensland and 1 in WA reportedly experienced a severe allergic reaction within 30 minutes of taking the vaccine. They all had a history of anaphylaxis. That prompted conflicting advice from health authorities.
If people are eligible at present and they have a history of anaphylaxis, we recommend, as the ATAGI advice is, that they should not delay vaccination.
We are putting in place precautionary measures that anyone who's got a severe allergic reaction in the past, that they delay getting the vaccine. Alternatively, we will be observing them for longer after their vaccination.
The Queensland government later changed its medical advice to toe the line of the Commonwealth. And exactly 1 month after Stage 1A commenced, 6 million Australians will, in just a few hours, become eligible for the vaccine, as you heard earlier. That includes people over the age of 70, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people older than 55, and adults with underlying medical conditions. Defence personnel and emergency service workers, as well as workers at meat processing facilities, will be able to get the vaccine as part of the 1B group. Phones have been ringing off the hook at GP practices across the country, with some practices set to begin administering vaccinations tomorrow. Politicians are urging patience as production ramps up at the CSL factory in Melbourne.
Alright, Connor 4K live for us tonight, thank you. Meanwhile, Papua New Guinea's government have announced a number of new restrictions due to rising COVID-19 cases. It's expected there will be tighter border controls internally, while personal movement will be restricted and mask wearing is set to become mandatory from tomorrow. There is also a ban on public gatherings of more than 10 people, with an exemption for religious gatherings of up to 50 if worshippers follow social distancing requirements. The country's COVID-19 response controller David Manning has said in a statement that the social distancing measures will remain in force until the end of the declaration of the pandemic by the World Health Organisation. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has now announced 8,000 doses of the vaccine and 1 million surgical masks will be provided to PNG. New South Wales Police Commissioner has proposed a consent app that he says could be used by couples to establish and record mutual consent before engaging in sex. Mick Fuller says he believes the technology could help navigate the way forward after thousands across Australia marched in a March for Justice to protest the alleged rape of Brittany Higgins and the federal government's handling of those claims. But after heavy backlash online, the state's top cop is now admitting such an app could be a terrible idea. Reporter Holly Shields has the details.
In recent news, a consent app has been proposed by one of Australia's top police officers. New South Wales Commissioner Mick Fuller put forward the idea for an app that records sexual consent in a bid to combat sexual assault and intimate partner violence. The app has been likened to the COVID check-in app, although it would be used to register consent for sexual encounters. Interestingly enough, a similar app has been launched in Denmark, known as iConsent, which has sparked little more than derision from the public. The exact function of the proposed Australian version is unclear. However, it has already come under heavy criticism from activist groups, labelling it as naive. In fact, Commissioner Fuller himself has since retracted the suggestion, acknowledging that the app might be the worst idea he's had all year. Nevertheless, he believes in the importance of technological solutions, which have demonstrated their capabilities during the COVID-19 pandemic. The effectiveness of the app, or lack thereof, is irrelevant, according to the Commissioner. But he hopes that the idea will start conversations around consent and confronting these particular crimes. It's my opinion that the New South Wales Police may need to continue with the brainstorming, as the consent app sounds about as realistic as the proposed 6 p.m. curfew for men in the UK. While both are intended to address the concerning rate of sexual violence against women, neither offer concrete solutions. The Police Commissioner's suggestion is in response to the March for Justice, a nationwide protest that reflects the rising unrest from citizens concerned for women's safety. The push for action comes in light of the rape allegations from Parliament House that have caused more than a stir among politicians. The March for Justice demands that the government address gendered violence, as protesters feel that the action until now has been inadequate. Lawmakers have been presented with a petition signed by 90,000 people in Canberra, calling for greater accountability over sexist behaviours in Parliament. Although Monday's event saw a major turnout of an estimated 110,000 people, conversations between organisers and PM Scott Morrison have been difficult to say the least. It's hoped that the overwhelming demand for action will amount to more effective and realistic solutions than have thus far been proposed.
Now, the idea for such an app has been mocked online, many calling it impractical. One podcast has even made a parody PSA of sorts, dubbing the proposal "No App, No WAP." Take a look at this short clip courtesy of Irrational Fear.
As New South Wales Police Commissioner, I love stripping down with others, but gaining consent can be a confusing process. That's why we've developed a new app to help men with important careers feel safe at night. Simply take out your Service New South Wales app and scroll to the sexual consent form. You and your sexual participants simply tick the boxes for the style and duration of sexual intercourse. Also note, if applicable, which private high school the participants attended, so we assign the most appropriate legal response should we even need to. Then simply sign on the screen. Or use a finger on the fingerprint reader. If one of your participants is too drunk to sign, definitely don't coerce them or just place their finger on the fingerprint reader. They'll never be able to prove otherwise. Then and only then can sexual intercourse proceed at a location of your choice. If any participant changes their mind, it won't be automatically updated by the app, but we're assured by the Boston Consulting Group that this will be addressed in a future upgrade. So when emotions are running high, remember, no app, no WAP.
Of course, we'd love to know your thoughts on the consent app proposal. Do you think it's a good idea, and would you even use it? Let us know in the comment section below. Well, Queensland's Chief Health Officer has pledged no more lockdowns for the state, even if there was another coronavirus outbreak. Jeanette Young says authorities would only lock down the most vulnerable people going into the future, such as restrictions on hospitals, aged care homes, prisons and disability services. Now, all those facilities have reopened after a COVID scare last week where a Brisbane doctor tested positive for the virus. However, CCTV analysis has not been able to find any quarantine breach occurring at the Grand Chancellor Hotel. Residents across a number of Victorian suburbs say they're fed up with hoons as concerns grow about potentially deadly crashes. A number of Melbourne councils are now taking matters into their own hands, trying to introduce anti-hoon laws to address an increase in dangerous driving. The state's opposition says Daniel Andrews' government has failed to protect the community, despite a number of cars being seized by authorities in recent weeks. Reporter Lincoln Holmes has this special report.
Mayhem on the streets as these hoons let their rubber rip, no matter the time of night, no matter the location.
Let me be clear that doing burnouts, hoon-related activities, racing around the streets is not harmless fun.
Tonight, police are cracking down on hoon drivers, as well as the people who attend these dangerous events and rev the engines of the hoon.
It's extremely dangerous and we see far too many people injured or even killed on our roads every day.
The former Geelong hoon spot of Limeburners Point was a hit for many, but now police are cracking down on hoon drivers right across the entire state, stretching all the way from Geelong to Keysborough, Richmond to Melton, Dandenong to St Kilda, and Hoppers Crossing to Brooklyn. Victoria Police are always watching as they now turn their attention to social media apps and eye off hoon group chats on social media platforms like Snapchat and Messenger. As police crack down on hoon drivers, they are now moving their locations to try and outrun the police, but they say it's not working and it's only a matter of time before these idiots get a knock on the door.
When an incident takes place, police will respond. We will attempt, to the best of our ability, to arrest people.
With the possibility of more large hoon meets on the way, locals are urging Victoria Police to prosecute everyone who attends these events, or else locals will have nothing better to do but take it into their own hand.
We're sick, as they are, of the irresponsible nature of the driving, the damage they cause, the danger they cause to the other people who are just going about their lives.
Police are aware of the fact that with lockdown last year, these hoons just want to let their rubber rip, but police say it is far too dangerous to let them do so. Police say any car that they catch only has a certain amount of lives before it is crushed.
We in Victoria crush around 20 cars a week. Cars do not go back to the person who owned it.
Since 2001, multiple lives have been lost from hooning as spectators have been hit by cars speeding dangerously close and out of control.
Is up to 6 years imprisonment. Victoria Police will respond, we will arrest you, and we will seize your cars.
Locals are also angry at the fact that these hoons are leaving their rubber at these locations where they perform these dangerous stunts. That in itself can cost you a hefty fine for littering.
Endanger people that they might die on our roads.
Police hope to stop and arrest as many people as they possibly can to help fade out this dangerous activity.
They participate and they're encouraged by those who go and watch. We want this to stop, not just to disperse and go somewhere else, but to actually stop.
Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
The Chancellor of the University of Queensland has claimed that anti-Chinese Communist Party activist Drew Pavlo painted himself as a victim amid ongoing tensions between the former student and the school. The university suspended Mr. Pavlo after he held rallies against human rights abuses in China, including one that ended in violence, claiming that he had breached its code of conduct. During an inquiry into national security threats, Chancellor Peter Varghese defended the uni's actions, saying it had followed standard disciplinary procedure and had been unable to defend itself properly. Mr. Pavlo is currently in the process of suing the university for $3.5 million. Overseas now, more than 1 month after the riot at the US Capitol, we're still seeing new details come out about what exactly unfolded on January 6th. The FBI has released a series of graphic videos in an attempt to identify 10 suspects allegedly involved in some of the most brutal assaults on law enforcement. 2 men have now been arrested and charged with assaulting the police officer who died during the siege, with the ABC reporting that the idea that Brian Sicknick died after being sprayed by a chemical irritant has now emerged as a new theory in the case in recent weeks. The attack happened as Congress was voting to certify Joe Biden's win over Donald Trump in November's US election. The White House has rejected an offer from Vladimir Putin to debate Joe Biden in live online talks after the US president labelled his Russian counterpart a killer. In an interview with ABC's George Stephanopoulos, Biden said that Putin will pay a price for his efforts to undermine the 2020 election, coming after a landmark intelligence assessment found that the Russian government meddled with the aim of denigrating Biden's candidacy. Putin said that a live debate would be interesting for both Russian people and for the US people, as well as for many other countries, but White House Press Sec Jen Psaki said she doesn't have anything to report in terms of a future meeting. Russia's now pulled its US ambassador in response to the comments, with the diplomat being invited, quote-unquote, back to Moscow to discuss international relations. Well, a video of Joe Biden has gone viral, but not for the reason you may think. Take a look at this. The US president was speaking to reporters outside the White House, but if we zoom in on those 2 microphones, you can see one appears to have a green tint, while it also appears Biden's hand clips through the microphone on the left. Now, it's important to note those microphones in this video are being held by boom poles, which makes them a lot bigger than you might think, and of course a lot harder to hold. Snopes reports that Biden's hand does actually cross over the mic, but it just looks a little funny simply because the mics are, again, both larger than anticipated and at a different distance than expected. Steve Herman, the reporter who was holding that fuzzy grey microphone in the video, tweeted in response to the theories that he was, quote-unquote, literally in front of the president when this video was filmed, not in a studio with a green screen. And of course, it's not the first time we've seen green screen conspiracy surrounding the US government. Last year, many on the left speculated that Donald Trump was in front of a green screen, not the White House lawn, when discussing his COVID-19 diagnosis. New data has revealed that over the past year, the number of anti-Asian hate incidents is larger than previously reported, and a significant number of attacks have been directed at women. The research released by reporting forum Stop AAPI Hate revealed nearly 3,800 incidents in the US reported during the pandemic, a significantly higher number than last year's count of about 2,800 hate incidents nationwide. NBC News reports that women are made up a fair higher share of the reports compared to men, but it's important to note this data does not include incidents reported to police. Now, this all comes after 8 people were shot dead at 3 spas in Atlanta, Georgia. 6 of those victims were Asian women. The suspect has told authorities he has a quote-unquote sex addiction. and denied that the attack was motivated by race. We've also seen another shocking incident you may not have heard about, with World Journal reporting that 2 Chinese women were run over and killed by a car while crossing a street in California. The aunt of one of the victims believes that the death of her niece and her friend may have been the result of a hate crime, because traffic in that area is not as congested as downtown LA, and the driver may have intentionally aimed for those 2 women. Their names Christine Yang and Isabella Zhang. At least 58 people have been killed in southwestern Nigeria when armed men on motorcycles intercepted a convoy and attacked a nearby village. The victims were returning home from a large livestock market near Nigeria's border with Mali. The announcement was read on state television by a government spokesperson who declared 3 days of national mourning. There was no claim of responsibility for the massacre, but extremists belonging to the Islamic State were known to be active in the region where the villages were attacked. A reporter with the BBC has been detained in Myanmar as clashes continue between security forces and protesters. Aung Thira was taken away by men in plain clothes while reporting outside a court in the capital, alongside another reporter who works for a local news organisation. The BBC said in a statement that it was extremely concerned and called on authorities to help locate him, adding that they take the safety of its staff in Myanmar very seriously and are doing everything they can to find him. Over a dozen people have been killed in recent clashes, with 40 journalists arrested since February's military coup. In total, more than 232 people have been killed, according to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners activist group. And if you want to know just how the coup unfolded, check out our special report on Myanmar's history of military clashes with civilians. That report on our YouTube channel right now. An army tank in Italy has accidentally blown up a chicken coop during a training exercise. Euronews reports that the tank was taking part in nighttime military exercises at a shooting range when it mistakenly fired on a nearby farm. While no humans were injured, at least 100 chickens were sadly killed, according to the farm's owners. Police have now impounded the 4 military tanks that were involved in the exercise. Finland has been named the world's happiest country for a 4th year running in an annual US-sponsored report. Data from the World Happiness Report asked people in 149 countries to rate their own happiness, which took into account social support, personal freedom, and level of corruption. Denmark came in 2nd place, then Switzerland, Iceland and the Netherlands, while New Zealand was the only non-European nation to make the top 10, while, if you're wondering, Australia came just shy in 11th position. The least happiest countries, meanwhile, were Rwanda, Zimbabwe and Afghanistan. Well, footy is finally back, with businesses booming, especially in Victoria, as fans from all clubs return to the pubs. Let's bring in senior reporter Darby Travers live for us tonight. Darby, there's hope restrictions will be eased on limits at stadiums going into the future.
Yeah, good evening, Leo. Footy fans are hoping that the Victorian government will allow more spectators into the MCG and Marvel Stadium, with, of course, round 1 now officially over. Now, crowd numbers are currently capped at 50,000 for the G and just under 29 at Docklands. Last month, AFL boss Gillan McLaughlin thanked Premier Daniel Andrews, saying his announcement provided a big boost for the league. And now we've started to see fans return to the pubs, bars and restaurants across the city, just weeks after the 3rd lockdown saw some businesses shut their doors. It is also important to note there have been a number of rule changes this season. Quarter lengths have returned to the usual 20 minutes plus time on, after being slated to 16 in 2020. Each club is now allowed to make 75 interchanges per game and are now able to have a medical substitute amid growing concerns about player concussion. Now, Leo, let's put last year's grand final to the side, but no doubt regardless of the result, always great to see some cat attack take to the footy field.
Yeah, always good to see the Hawks out and about again. You know, we don't have an AFLW team, so it's always good to see the boys in brown and gold back out again. Hopefully I'll be able to get to a game again very soon. Darby Travers, live for us tonight. Thank you. Alright, meanwhile, congratulations are in order for the team at WAMN News who have taken home the Communications Award at the Western Australian Multicultural Awards 2021, hosted by the Office of Multicultural Interest. News editor Ivan Lung accepted the award on behalf of the network and credited the win to the hard work of the team at WAMN. In a statement to 6 News, Lung said that independent media plays a significant role in WA as a credible listening post for all parts of the community, and it also brings different flavours of independent public journalism that ensures the well-being of democracy. And here is Ivan with what's coming up later tonight on WAMN News.
Thanks, Leo. Coming up on WAMN News exclusive, rush to stop the crusher. River Lake residents are concerned about an industrial facility next to their homes.
The McGowan government begins its second term with a cabinet reshuffle.
Surprise win, WAMN News takes home a multicultural award for its local news service.
Special analysis on the future of the new McGowan cabinet, plus Dr. Andrew Miller's COVID comment. See you tonight after 8:30 on the WAMN News Facebook and YouTube channel.
Alright, thanks to both Ivan and Sarah there. Check tomorrow's forecast right across the country for tomorrow now. Brisbane showers, top of 24, 21 in Sydney, 20 and stormy in the nation's capital as we continue the fallout from the large rain over the weekend in the New South Wales and ACT regions. 23 in Melbourne, meanwhile, 24 in Hobart, 26 in Adelaide, 24 in Alice Springs, 27 in Perth, and in Darwin, heavy rain, as usual, a top of 31. And just quickly before we go tonight, I know some of you have been pointing out we have a few bugs on our website, either not being able to load the page or getting a security warning. I can promise you the website is safe, don't worry about that, but right now it's a trial and error situation, okay? So we made the website ourselves, all self-made, and we are working to fix those bugs. The majority of you, though, can still see the website, 6newsau.com, where you'll see breaking news, up-to-date reports, and behind-the-scenes content. So once you do load the website, you can see all that and much, much more. We've been getting some great feedback on that, so it's good to know that more than 2/3 of our viewers can see that. Again, it's 6newsau.com. And that is 6 News for this very busy Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with the latest news by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Lit. Just search 6 News AU to find us. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.